Hey guys, so today I'm going to be filming another Riding Rose video. This footage is from the day after I had my very first lesson with Chevy, which unfortunately I could not film. So yeah, I basically was practicing a lot of the things that we learned in that lesson, and I really wanted to share with you guys because I think it is really interesting. So at the moment he is just trotting around, his nose is poking out a little bit, but that's okay. Basically what we kind of covered in the lesson was that I need to ride Chevy very differently to how I rode Hugo. Hugo was quite a lazy horse, so I was constantly riding him forward all the time, whereas Chevy doesn't really need that, and I was kind of applying the same tactic. So Chevy, the way that I was riding him, it was just making him run instead of actually work, because as you can see he has quite a good trot pace anyway. He doesn't need to be pushed forward all of the time. So what I'm doing here is just putting him on some circles, and basically what we covered was that I need to make him a lot stronger in himself, and I need to get him working under himself a lot more. So at the moment, by making him work forward so much, he is running through the shoulder and evading basically having to do anything by himself. So we did a lot of half halting and a lot of work just on the circle, moving in and out, getting him to listen to my leg without necessarily running forward. So as you can see here, he's sticking out his nose. That's because we're on a small circle. I'm giving him quite a lot of half halt. You can see just here his pace has slowed down a lot, just to make him work under himself a lot more. Basically we figured out that him sticking his nose out is a way of evading self-carriage. So I would come around a corner, he would run through his shoulder, and then I would half hold to bring him back, and he would just stick his nose out and basically avoid everything. So here we're working on making the circle smaller and bigger, because he has picked up on obviously my leg meaning forward, but he's running forward out of the shoulder when I put my inside or outside leg on. So we're just making the circle smaller and bigger, and then here you can see when he gets used to that, we've come on alongside to do a leg yield. This leg yield wasn't the best, and here he sticks his nose out. That's because I need to half halt halfway through the leg yield. So basically we go along the leg yield as normal, and then I'll do quite a blunt half halt and sit really deep in the saddle to make him come back before finishing off the half halt. Here you can see coming around that corner he listened and slowed his pace, and as a result he's working in a much better carriage and frame. I'm also finding it a lot more helpful with Chevy, in particular, to ride him with a higher hand. Basically it's just, he just responds to it a lot better. He's already quite low and forward, and I need to bring him up from the shoulder more. So riding him with a higher hand seems to be he seems to prefer it a lot more, whereas Hugo, and I think most thoroughbreds, prefer to be ridden with a lower hand, especially if they've had any kind of racing experience. So here you can see I've just changed reins. I'm just swapping my whip over. I always carry my whip in my inside hand. That's just the way I learnt. So we're also working a lot on the halt, because he leans on the bit so much, and I am swapping his bit. I'm going to do a video about that. But yeah, we work a lot on the halt, because honestly he'd be walking along and you ask him to halt and it takes him like, you know, 5 to 10 paces just to stop, and then he sits there and leans on the bit and doesn't soften. So we're doing that a lot. That was a good one, so I gave him a good pat afterwards, and then just trotting on. Again, he has a really good forward button, so that makes it much easier. Here you can see that he just ran straight out through the shoulder, stuck his nose out. That's what we're working on avoiding. And then so when he does that, basically I just need to sit him back and half halt. I also need to kind of preempt the half halt, because he knows that he can just run, and so if I'm half holding before when he anticipates, it's going to make it a lot easier. So that one was a little bit better, and you can see here he came back to the contact as well, because he's carrying himself and working. So I'm going to do the same thing this way as I did the other way. He's a little bit distracted down in this corner. We call this a scary corner for no reason. So here I've put him on the smaller circle. So here I need to half halt a lot with my outside hand and get him flexing to the inside. He needs to slow down a lot, otherwise he will run out through his shoulder, and it just makes it much harder. So I'm making the circle bigger and bigger each time. But if he runs through the shoulder, I make it smaller and half halt and make him work, so that he knows that the inside leg doesn't mean run out through the outside shoulder. So he's come back into a nice contact there. he's a little bit distracted here, and he runs just a little bit, and I've half halted, and so you can see he stuck his nose out again. So it was really nice to figure out that that was kind of what was causing him to stick his nose out, and that I can actually do something to prevent that, and it wasn't just habitual. And it's almost kind of good because it means I know that he's having to come back and work under himself. So we do another little leg yield here. He got a little bit strong in the hands, but he did go back to the track, which is nice. He has quite a good pace here. I always feel like, I think from Hugo, I need to push him so far forward, but it's good seeing the footage, seeing that he's already quite forward and has a good pace. We do another leg yield here. You can see he's flexing quite well to the inside. He responded much more to the half halt, and it's a lot slower towards the end, which is much easier and much more controlled. I don't know about you guys, but it's really hard to do a leg yield when your horse is just like steam training straight ahead of you, because they're just running and pulling and it's not much fun. So we're just going large here. I did a little bit of extension there and then brought him back with the half halt. You can see he listened quite well to that. That's another thing we're working on, is pushing him forward and then bringing him back so that he has to kind of stop and work under himself, and just getting really respectful of the half halt as well. So we come around here, you can see that was a really nice corner. He didn't run out of the hand at all, which is much nicer to ride. And then you can see he's starting to kind of drop his head and work more into a frame. I think that will just come as he gets stronger in working under himself and builds up his top line a lot more. Do a little extension here, and then bring him back with the half halt here. You can see he comes back reasonably well, not as good as the last one. And yeah, so basically that is what we worked on, and it was really awesome. Hopefully I'll be able to film the next lesson, but I hope this was helpful if you guys have the same problem.